All right. Hi, everybody. My name is David Schach. I've been a Salesforce user since 2006. I wrote S-controls, and I wrote S-control snippets. And if you don't know what that is, then that's why I'm a dinosaur and no one's heard of my name anymore. No. I started the Salesforce tweet up. I did the first ever tweet up at Dreamforce in 2009, which became all these other things. I wrote the Chatter Bingo app for Dreamforce. Did anyone go to Dreamforce when Chatter was unveiled? Am I that old? Yeah, someone remembers when okay, so there was a bingo app in the org that you could print out a little card and mark off your followers when you met them. I led this group before Daniel, 20-something until 14 or 15, until maybe 2015. And apparently I faded into the fog of history, which is just a wonderful, wonderful way to be. All right, so I've been a data guy, and then I became a developer. So we're going to have a good developer chat, which means that it has to be code in the first 2 minutes or people are going to skin you alive. So this is me. I'm into Twitter, and I'm into Dunkin' Donuts, coffee, a little bit into the donuts. So here we go. Setup, code, share, done, right? That's how a good thing goes. So let's talk about setup. Has anyone heard of Salesforce matching rules and the data thing, right? Is that something that anyone's, okay, good. So they're wonderful tools, right? If you mark that when things match, we're not going to go into how to set up matching rules because actually it's a really good Trailhead module for that. Let's talk about what happens after that. So if you set something to do a report, it says you can do an alert or a report when you get a duplicate. It's called a report. What it really does is writes a record to the duplicate record item and the duplicate record set, right? So you have multiple items in a set. What I found was that when I was merging, for instance, leads, like we have at Climb Higher, we have leads. When I was merging leads, you'd get a duplicate record set left behind with only one lead attached to it. And how do you clean that out? So let's talk about different ways to handle that and how to get good reporting on your duplicates. Thank you. We're done. No. So if we take a look here in this org, I've got the duplicate record item. You can't see, can you? Patience. No. Duplicate records item. And what I did was I created, if you know what records you're working with, you could do this with lead as well. I just did this in this org with contacts and accounts. Create a lookup on your duplicate record item to contact and to account. Now, why is this really good? Because you can then do a report on the items with the records, and now I can run a big report filtering by attributes of that contact. So if it's an account, we put the account lookup, and if it's a contact, we put the contact and the account lookup. If there are other objects that you do, you just make another lookup. You might say, David, that doesn't scale. And I'm like, yes, it doesn't scale. You're right, because there's no polymorphic lookup in Salesforce. Deal with it, folks. Look, I've been doing this a long time. At a certain point, you're like, yes, it doesn't do that. I know. Just, it does a lot of other things really well. So that's duplicate record item. What I've got, and one of the cool things is this field called object type. We're going to see where in the code that's a fun little thing to do, object type. We're going to populate the object type. And we're going to do this on the record set as well. Now, the big thing about this, okay, who knows where the standard master detail relationships are in Salesforce? Anyone know them? Standard master detail relationship that involves roll-ups, maybe, of an amount.
Contact, opportunity of products and opportunity.
Keep opportunity products, opportunity to contact to account. That's it. That is your standard master detail, except for one other. There's a lookup here. There's a master detail relationship here from item to set, where the set has a number that is the number of records in the set. It's the other set of master detail. And the reason that's important is because when you update a child in a master detail relationship that has a roll-up summary field, you also trigger an update trigger on the parent. And we're going to use that to our advantage to delete the record set when you get down to one record. Does that make sense to everybody? We're at the bottom. We're going to merge. When we merge our duplicate record items, one of them gets deleted by Salesforce. Thank you. But at that point, we're going to fire a trigger. We're going to update and hopefully delete everything. OK, let's just go to the code. I mean, no one really cares about any of this stuff. So we could do it here where it's got nice. I've never presented in VS Code before, so this is a little new for me. Can everyone see? And if not, does anyone know how to make it bigger? That's pretty big. OK. So we're going to start with a trigger. I use a very simple trigger, which Peter Chittum wrote about. I just put one thing in every trigger. And then here it says after update, there are debates. There have been debates for 15 years about do we only listen to the trigger things that we're interested in, or do we put all the events in a trigger to save CPU, even if it's never going to do anything? We're not going to, that's like debating brackets, folks. We're not going to do that here. Just trust me, that's how it goes. And this looks familiar, duplicate record item trigger. And then, of course, I've got to, OK. Let's take a look at what really happens. In the duplicate record trigger handler, this is where Peter Chittum talked about using a switch. I like switch in my triggers. There are better trigger frameworks out there. Kevin O'Hara wrote a great one that has all sorts of bells and whistles. We're not doing any reentrant. We're not doing anything with recursion or anything in this trigger. So this is very simple. It has a switch, then we do the same thing. OK, what do? We fill fields. And again, this doesn't scale. We've got an account and a contact lookup where we have to do that. Then we fill in the account field, just for whatever. I filled in the created by and the created date, just in case. Probably wouldn't do that if I were building from scratch this time. And I can put in the object type as account. And then this is my favorite line in the entire trigger handler. Why? The object type, which is a text field, equals dri.recordID. Give it an ID. And then there's a really cool set of methods that just give you the object name. This is new. This wasn't around years and years ago. So those of us who've been here for a long time are like, this is flipping amazing. I can give it any ID and I can get the name. So it'll be like task, event, whatever it is, including custom names. And then we've got the update the duplicate record. So I landed up actually putting in and updating the parent just to be sure. Your mileage may vary. That's all we do. And then I update. That's right. I wrote the S-object name to the parent. Why did I do that? Because I didn't have access to the S-object name for the record on the parent trigger. So here we go. So this is all we do. We put fields on this, and then we put fields on the parent. On the top, it's really boring because after an update, that's all you do. So this is where we can get into the debate. Do I put after update only, or do I put all the other ones even though I've got no actions here? My personal feeling is don't touch the trigger after it's written unless you absolutely have to. And then we just go along and we say, no, this many records. And then you do a select. I say I'm deleting. This is a really inefficient debug statement. Never do this. Never. This is actually, this is why I don't share it. And then delete it when it's a candidate to delete. So that's all it is. And I did it in the future context. Anyone know why it's future? Because it doesn't matter to the user experience. That's why. No, if user experience doesn't matter, future that action. I'm going to share with you really fast my GitHub repository, because that is where I put some test code. And I don't like sharing. I have no internet. I don't like sharing test code. You can tell I've presented before with stupid technical problems. Test code is very personal, but I'm putting it in my GitHub repository, and that will be sent out. In fact, I might put it on Twitter tonight. You can all have the code. You can all do it. But basically, duplicate records are great, but let's not leave any orphaned duplicate record sets behind, because bad data is bad, but bad extra data is extra bad. Thank you.